Tales of the Jersey Shore is made possible in part by generous support from Eisner-Amper. Eisner-Amper is a leading accounting, tax, and advisory firm that's been helping local and national companies grow and individuals succeed for nearly half a century. With offices throughout New Jersey and around the country, Eisner-Amper is proud to support such valuable programming to the communities we serve. Eisner-Amper, let's get down to business.
Hi, I'm Emil Salvini, author and historian, and these are Tales of the Jersey Shore. Tonight's episode is called On the Boards. Hard to think of the Jersey Shore without thinking of boardwalks. While our coastline is about 127 miles, somebody estimated that if you could magically line up all the boardwalks, come to about 32 miles. They're made of all different materials and they come in all sizes. The smallest, Seabright, New Jersey, is only 200 feet. And the granddaddy of all, 5 miles in Atlantic City. We've got some great interviews and stories tonight, and we hope you'll stay tuned for On the Boards.
The first boardwalk on the Jersey Shore was constructed in Cape May in 1862, although Atlantic City disputes that fact. Known as Flirtation Walk, we can see here, by the turn of the century, automobiles and an electric railway on the far right carried people from Cape May Point to the eastern end of Cape May called Poverty Beach. An early view of Wildwood shows wood was their choice, and we see the Wildwood Sightseer train. The trains made their appearance in 1949 when several were purchased from the 1939 New York World's Fair. Watch the tram car, please. The Asbury Park Boardwalk, still wood, is connected to the Ocean Grove Walkway located just south of it. At one time, there was the Ocean Grove North End Hotel that contained amusements, rooms, restaurants, and an archway bridge over the boardwalk that connected the structures. The boardwalks of the past contain numerous curiosities that we'd like to share with you. A walk on the Atlantic City Boardwalk a century ago would take you by the Italianate mansion built by Captain John Lake Young. Its address was number 1 Atlantic Ocean, and it stood at the end of his $1 million pier. Captain Young entertained celebs, business moguls, and even United States presidents, as we can see President Taft enjoying his hospitality. The earliest thrill ride on the Atlantic City Boardwalk, the Flip Flap Railway on Young's first pier. I'm not sure I would have taken the chance, as I think it may not pass today's safety standards. Another Atlantic City attraction provided by Captain Young was his net haul. The bounty of the Atlantic was hauled up daily in giant nets, and the rubes loved it. Locals would joke that many of the species coming up in the nets were not even indigenous to the mid-Atlantic. The more popular boardwalks like Asbury Park and Atlantic City attracted very talented sand artists. They would please the crowd, creating masterpieces, and the tourists would toss loose change on a nearby blanket. Sadly, Atlantic City banned the practice when it was discovered that some of the less scrupulous artists were mixing mortar in the sand so the tides would not claim their art. No story about boardwalks would be complete without a mention of piers. They began when some ingenious entrepreneur realized that if he bought a strip of boardwalk, he could build out over the ocean as long as the technology of the era would permit. The Steeplechase Pier was one of the most popular in Atlantic City and along the entire Jersey Shore. The oldest image in existence of the Long Branch Iron Pier. It served as a people-watching area and a dock for the steamships that would ferry tourists back and forth from New York City. 57 varieties. The H.J. Heinz Pier extended 1,000 feet over the beach. It had popular exhibits and no one left without a souvenir pickle pin. Before Captain Lake Young opened his $1 million pier, his first pier, known as just Young's Pier, was an Atlantic City original. Wildwood wanted to get in on the action and built the Ocean Pier, complete with 8 bowling alleys, carousels, rides, and even bathing attire for hire. Visible from the Point Pleasant Boardwalk is the Jenkinson's Beach Train. It was built to connect the Jenkinson Amusements empire on the north and south end of the Point Pleasant Boardwalk. but it became an attraction to children of all ages until it was retired in the late 1990s. Here we have a 1937 view of the Point Pleasant Boardwalk. A lot has changed since then.
Today I'm going to begin by building a segment of the original Asbury Park Boardwalk. Let's get started. Voila! The first boardwalk in Asbury Park, New Jersey in the late 19th century.
A small section of boardwalk I just built is almost identical to the original Asbury Park Boardwalk depicted in this very rare photograph. Come winter, the portable boardwalk was just moved to higher ground. While boardwalks came in all sizes and shapes, they had one thing in common: wood. It was inexpensive, and the hard, tight-grained woods, such as ipe from the South American rainforests, were not yet endangered.
So it's said that necessity is the mother of invention. And in reality, while boardwalks today are used for amusement parks and quiet walks along the Atlantic Ocean, they were originally built to keep this stuff, sand, out of the beautiful plush hotels and Pullman cars that started to come to the Jersey Shore and be built in the late 19th century.
Belmar Mayor Matt Dougherty was kind enough to share some of his boardwalk memories with us.
Sure. Coming here with my family. One of the funny memories I have is of the McDonald's that used to be on the boardwalk. And you think about the location of this boardwalk and how valuable it is, and to think that there used to be a McDonald's here. Now we have a very high-end restaurant, Matisse, which does a great job and is an incredible dining experience. But in the past, it used to serve Big Macs and French fries.
Retired educators Sal Marino and Richard Handshoe, known as the Beach Bums, decided to walk all 32 miles of the state's boardwalks and wrote a guide about their adventures.
I used to go to Kingsburg when I was a kid, and I loved, they had the rides there, but they had a nice boardwalk, and I remember that. And when we went to do our research, there was no boardwalk. The rides are there with that chain link fence on the macadam.
Most people give you the boardwalk that they were brought up on. And I was brought up in the seaside boardwalks, the Heights. I worked there, and I really like the Heights. You like what?
Point Pleasant.
Point Pleasant.
That's where I bought.
Ocean City Mayor Jay Gillian shared many of his memories with me.
Well, where we're standing right now, when I was growing up, the ocean used to come up underneath. So before we were getting our beach replenishment, the kids would jump over the railings right into the ocean. But I think the biggest memory of growing up here in Ocean City is just when the summer starts and you smell the cotton candy and you smell the Johnson's popcorn and just the rides and the screams and the ocean. It really is just an amazing experience.
Ocean City, New Jersey was a Methodist community just like Ocean Grove further north. When it was first formed, they were going to call it Brighton, after Brighton, England. It was pointed out to them that Brighton was not a dry town. The name was then changed to Ocean City.
Last couple of years, there's been a push to bring BYOB in Ocean City, and we just had a vote earlier this year, and it went down 2-1. And that's the traditional family values that we keep here. You have an image, and you got to uphold it. And the voters, 2-1 said no, they don't want BYOB. They like Ocean City the way it is, and you don't need to have a drink to have a good dinner.
Ocean City has a connection to royalty through the Kelly family. Grace Kelly and her family had a summer home here. She later became a famous actress and the Princess of Monaco.
It really is a generational group that we have here in Ocean City, so it's neat seeing that people grow up here.
What type of wood is the boardwalk made of?
Right now we just have pine. We have one end has the hardwood, another end has hardwood, but most of it's made up of pine. So yeah, and that's what we're looking at right now. We're working on our infrastructure here in Ocean City, and we're trying to come up with different ideas of what to do with the boardwalk, but we're absolutely going to keep it wood on top. But the products out there, pine. We're meeting this week with someone that they infuse the pine with fiberglass, so it makes it really hard. So we're looking at all different wood products to do our boardwalk.
As we can see, different towns took a variety of approaches to dealing with Mother Nature. While a handful of towns continued to replace their wood boardwalks, many explored new materials as they became available. Pavers, synthetic wood, and macadam were substituted for wood in a number of towns along New Jersey's 127-mile coastline. As we can see, different towns took a variety of approaches to dealing with Mother Nature. The only way to get the inside story about boardwalks is to speak with the unsung heroes, the public works crews that work tirelessly so we can enjoy the Jersey Shore each summer. Belmar's Rod McCann shared his experiences with us.
Basically, I am a maintenance man for the boardwalk, building, repairing, and redoing boardwalk. The decking portion of the boardwalk is made from Trex. It's a plastic composite lumber. It's supposed to have a lifetime guarantee. It's just a whole lot more easier to maintain, and one of the benefits is there's no splinters like the old boardwalks.
But it was right around 2000 that was the time we decided to replace the boardwalk. We decided to go with an entirely artificial boardwalk, a Trex. Actually, I think we used Trex initially as the first product, but we went with this composite wood made of plastic, largely recycled plastics.
Boardwalks of Belmar have been here for decades, and they've gone through transformations. Currently, we've renovated the boardwalk over the last 2 years, and now we have nothing but what's called Trex lumber on the boardwalk. So we have no more woods. We were running into issues with the wood deteriorating over time, particularly after storms, and also people getting splinters, particularly children. And to make it a little bit more family friendly, we've moved to Trex lumber, which is essentially a composite plastic.
When you say the word boardwalk, people automatically think of wood, and that's the boardwalk. But each town has its own little differences in the boardwalk, and some are wood, some are macadam, some are brick pavers, composite board, and so forth. There is a difference.
The wood just didn't hold up. To use any kind of wood that wasn't a hardwood from a rainforest, which was really politically incorrect at the time, it meant replacing it with the type of wood that you might get 6 to 10 years out of. And the last several years, the wood is splintering. It resulted in lots of injuries to people, particularly children and old people on the boardwalk, who would either get splinters or trip on nails that had lifted up out of the wood, or the wood would warp and cause trip hazards.
We first started redoing boardwalk in 1992. I believe in 96, when Trex was first introduced. They decided to redo everything into plastic, so it's taken pretty much the last 20 years or so to get to this point where it's almost all done.
How long is the boardwalk here?
The boardwalk's a little over a mile, I'd say almost 1.25 miles long, from First Avenue by the bridge down to Spring Lake.
We explored, actually during the early 90s, for several years we had test sections of different types of composite wood, plastic wood down on the boardwalk, to just see how they weathered, to see how they were to walk on at different times of the year. We found that some of them were very slippery when they got icy, some were not. And we gradually settled on the product that we use now.
In mid-2004, when I took pictures of the Jersey boardwalks for my book, Boardwalk Memories, Tales of the Jersey Shore, Belmar, New Jersey was slowly switching from wood to Trex.
The towns have to put aside approximately $150,000 to $200,000, and of course it could be more depending on the town, just each year for repair, just for reconstruction.
Well, over the last few years, we had to budget a lot. What we're hoping now that most of the major construction is done, that the costs will relax a bit. But we also want to continue to make improvements.
Generally, we take on 2 to 3 blocks at a time each winter. It depends on how far you can get. You try not to rip up more than you can get down by the next spring. We've had some pretty rough winters down here, and there's no one down here except us, the wind, and the seagulls. So, the winter time is optimum time for getting it done, but it's sometimes like a ghost town down here.
But the net effect was a much stronger, sturdier boardwalk. We lowered it at the south end so that it did not create as much of an impediment for a wave if a wave were to come through. And then we put a dune alongside of it that was low.
The snow fence is wire and wood planking. You can probably see it behind me there. That knocks down a lot of the sand that flies around when nor'easters hit. Nor'easter will pick the sand up off the beach and really make it travel up onto the street or the boardwalk. But that kind of knocks it down, helps tune it up and keeps it out on the beach so we don't have to spend weeks digging out the boardwalk.
So we think we have a nice, solid, good boardwalk now that'll last generations.
Here we are on the granddaddy of all New Jersey boardwalks, the 5-mile-long Atlantic City Walkway. As we can see, while Atlantic City has experienced many changes over the years, they have remained loyal to the tradition of wooden walkways. In some areas, the Atlantic City Boardwalk is over 50 feet wide. While Atlantic City may have not invented the boardwalks, the city introduced many innovations, including the rolling chairs. First used in 1876 Centennial Exposition to accommodate the handicapped, a hardware store owner in Atlantic City saw the potential, and the city eventually offered 2- and 3-seat models for everyone to enjoy the 5-mile tour. Did you know that the Atlantic City Boardwalk is the only one on the Jersey Shore that is spelled with a capital B? Yes, in 1896, the city fathers adopted the word boardwalk as a street name to emphasize the city's dominance over all other boardwalks. The problem with building fragile wood boardwalks near the Atlantic Ocean was that nor'easters and an occasional hurricane would often turn them into piles of kindling. Depicted here, hurricanes from 1938 and 1944, this is before we even gave them names, and the 1962 Great Atlantic Nor'easter. Fires were also a problem, especially when a stiff ocean wind fanned the flames like a tremendous bellows. These photos show why many Jersey resorts look for a substitute for wood or just stop replacing their boardwalks completely.
You know, obviously, being on the coast of New Jersey for since time immemorial has always meant that every decade or two, a storm was going to come through and largely destroy much of what had been built and much of what was there.
As a kid, I remember the Keensburg Boardwalk. When I was 5 years old, it was a thrill to me. The Keensburg Boardwalk with their rides and everything. The rides are still there, but a storm came in, the hurricane of 44, the hurricane of 60, they came in and they wiped out a lot of the boardwalks. Keensburg was one to go, they never replaced it. And you swing on down along the shore, Cliffwood Beach and Lawrence Harbor. They each had a boardwalk right next to those, and they're long gone too. They never replaced them. They're starting to do something up there now to replace some of those boardwalks. Keyport finally has redone their boardwalk, and they've got a beautiful waterfront there now, so they're fixing it up. You come down the shore, and Bayhead had a boardwalk the whole length of their town. Each storm that came in would take a section of that boardwalk out, and the town would never replace it. And right up until I think it was 1989, on the southern end, where the Bluffs was, that was the last portion of boardwalk in Bayhead. That got wiped out in 1989. So Bayhead will never have another boardwalk. You'll never see it there.
And certainly during the 20 years I was mayor, we saw not that many storms, but certainly during that entire period of time, the nor'easter of 92 was far and away the worst one we saw. There was a storm in 38, there were storms in the 40s, and we would see pictures of just utter devastation where the boardwalk was destroyed and washed across the street. And I would look at those old pictures and I would think that was a once in a 100-year event. How could it possibly happen that the ocean could be that strong and exert inflict that much damage?
Yeah, that had a massive devastation to the boardwalk, and ever since then it's been rebuilt little by little over time. It's an expensive endeavor, so it really took basically 20 years to put it in the condition it is now. We had a hurricane last year, Hurricane Irene, and because of the way we've built the new boardwalk, we sustained very little damage at all during that hurricane.
A couple of hurricanes. I'll tell you, last year's hurricane, we got lucky. I know a lot of people up North Jersey were with flooding, and it was soul searching when that hurricane was coming up last year. So the nor'easters have beaten us down a few times.
As soon as you get those storm surges coming around, they hit the seawall, come around the back bay, and then come back in. And if you look at the Philadelphia stations, Ocean City, all those places, as soon as there's a problem, the water comes into the back and really messes it up. So that's one of the things why they don't have boardwalks in those areas anymore.
And in the nor'easter of 92, in December of 1992, we were hit for about 3 days with this nor'easter that just sat off the coast. And the waves just washed against the beach. Nothing horrible, nothing touched the boardwalk, but it was gradually eroding the beach, and which is the most natural defense that any beach town has against the ocean. The entire southern end of our boardwalk, about almost a quarter of a mile of our boardwalk, had been completely ripped up and strewn across Ocean Avenue, just like the pictures that I had seen from the 30s and 40s. A police car picked up and hurled across the street. I'd never seen anything like it, and it was over like that, all within the space of literally a matter of minutes. In some towns, their entire beachfronts were devastated. In Belmar, we suffered devastation really only at the southern end of the town. Once you got north of maybe 12th Avenue, the north half of Belmar's beachfront, there was no damage at all. And that was, you could see as clear as day that where Belmar had a big beach, we had no damage. And where we had no beach, we had devastating damage. So there's never a more clear indication of the importance of a big beach in terms of a shore protection measure than Belmar following the 92 storm. It was as clear as day that the difference that our beach made.
We've been lucky. We've gotten our beach replenishment over the last, we're on a 3-year cycle. Looks like we're going to get it again this year. So that's the thing, that's the most important, is keeping our beaches replenished.
Whatever they are made of, boardwalks have one thing in common: they make memories.
I come here with my friends all the time. We always go mini golfing, but probably my favorite memory was we all went on the Ferris wheel, and I'm terrified of Ferris wheels, but they helped me like conquer my fear, and I cried the whole time, but it was so fun. The boardwalk is always such a good time with all your friends.
I come here about 2 or 3 times a year. I live in California. I grew up here along the Jersey Shore in Neptune.
We're in Ocean City on vacation, making memories right now.
My favorite thing is the ocean and all the rides and all the games and all the toys I got from the game. I got a lot. I got 4 of them at the same time.
Just having a ball. School is out and I'm loving it.
I love it. It's so much fun. It's a different feeling when you come down here than when you're at home.
We hope you enjoyed tonight's episode called On the Boards, and that we whet your appetite to explore these national treasures. We end this episode on one of the most popular boardwalks on the Jersey Shore, Ocean City, New Jersey. It's traditional wood, we've got concessions, wonderful crowds, and all along the Atlantic Ocean. What more can you ask for? Please stay tuned to this channel for more tales of the Jersey Shore.
Tales of the Jersey Shore is made possible in part by generous support from Eisner Amper. Eisner Amper is a leading accounting, tax, and advisory firm that's been helping local and national companies grow and individuals succeed for nearly half a century. With offices throughout New Jersey and around the country, Eisner Amper is proud to support such valuable programming to the communities we serve. Eisner Amper, let's get down to business.